Welcome back, everyone. This is part 6 on What If Kid Asta Meets Noelle's Mother. I do not own Black Clover or any of the characters in this video. Chapter 11. A few weeks have gone by since the latest Magic Knight Captain's meeting in regards to the Eye of the Midnight Sun's attack on the royal capital of Clover and the Diamond Kingdom's attack on Chiton. Due to the Magic Parliament suffering in the aftermath, the guards of the Magic Parliament were blamed for such. 3 of them to be accurate. Within the hallways of the Magic Parliament building, the nobles that are within the Magic Parliament surrounded 3 of the guards. You call yourselves guards. Pathetic. A prideful-sounding blonde-haired noblewoman pushed a green-haired, green-eyed woman into the wall, followed by a few punches by said woman. The 2 males next to the green-haired, green-eyed guard of the Magic Parliament had red eyes and red hair, along with a blonde-haired and brown-eyed guard. Both of the male guards were being assaulted as well by 2 noblemen respectively. You can't even protect the people from an attack such as this. One of the 2 male noblemen snapped. Honestly, I don't even remember why we hired you. My son is in the hospital because of you people failing to do your job. The noblewoman snapped at the singular female guard, shoving her to the ground, then lifted her up and moved back into the wall and continued to repeat the process. Please, the female guard spoke softly. We tried, but those dark disciples were too. Excuses. The noblewoman screamed before slugging the female guard. At this point, the 3 guards' faces were bloodied, along with their clothes. That's quite enough. The 3 nobles gasped, then turned to face who spoke, as did the 3 guards. Before the 6 was a man with black hair that was neatly combed. Aside from one strand of hair that he left alone, he wore the Magic Parliament clothing of green and white, along with holding a scale in his right hand. Lord Damnatio. The 3 nobles gasped. Sir? The female guard spoke softly. Damnatio glanced at the 3 guards, then back at the 3 nobles. I do not recall granting permission to beat up my associates, Damnatio retorted sternly. While it is true that they failed, not all was lost, but beating them up into submission because of this will not solve anything. Damnatio turned to the 3 bloodied and battered guards. As for you 3, I am resigning you. Siona, Caverly, Anabi Sinho, Cabwi Carillion. Damnatio turned on his heel and began to walk away before the 3 guards could even say anything. You leave tomorrow. However, since this is so sudden, I will grant you 3 your money for the week doubled. Chi. Cabwi grunted. Sir, how will we find another job? Anabi questioned. Damnatio shrugged, but didn't turn around to face them. That's your business now, was all he said before turned down the hall's corner. The 3 nobles glanced at each other, then left the 3 guards to their own devices. As the 3 now former guards of the Magic Parliament left the building, the blood on their faces and clothes now dried, they began to wander around the royal capital, unsure and lost. Now what? Anabi wondered aloud. That was our only job too, Siona spoke softly. Gah. Cabwi clenched his hands into fists. Well, we'll just have to find another job, won't we? I refuse to become homeless. As the 3 continued to walk through the capital, they came across a group of nobles surrounding a couple pillars. Carefully, the 3 approached and stood behind the crowd, who apparently were laughing at whatever was on the pillar. A new Magic Knight squad. Honestly, what is that fool of a wizard king thinking? A nobleman laughed. I know, right? His wife snickered. The captain is from the Diamond Kingdom to boot. If the Magic Parliament gets word of this, they'll want to shut it down. Another noblewoman added. Isn't 9 Magic Knight squads enough? A 3rd nobleman scoffed. Apparently not, a 3rd noblewoman added. The 3 former guards watched as the group of nobles went to each pillar or wall and tore down the posters before stampeding all over them so they were almost unreadable. All of the nobles laughed while doing so. Once the crowd of nobles were gone, Cabwi, Siona, and Anabi approached the fallen posters. Siona picked one up and held it in front of her so Cabwi and Anabi could see what the poster had written on it. Despite it now being covered in several footprints by the nobles that stepped all over the posters that were originally on the pillars and walls of the buildings within the vicinity, Siona then began to read it to Cabwi and Anabi. Amber Phoenix, the 10th and newest Magic Knight squad, looking for new recruits. Siona read aloud. So, what do you think? Anabi put a hand to his chin and thought. He mused. I say we go for it. Cabwi spoke up. What chance for a new job will pop up like this ever again? I dunno, Siona murmured as she let the poster slip out of her hands and onto the ground. I mean, would we even be accepted? Do we have a choice? Cabwe scowled. I'm skeptical too, considering the rumors we've heard about the Wizard King. By the other nobles we've met or come across. He clenched his right hand into a fist. But I'm not going to throw this chance at a new job away. Let's at least check on the headquarters of this new Magic Knight squad. Humph. Better than becoming homeless. Anabi crossed his arms. Siona sighed in defeat. Oh okay, she murmured. We'll go check it out. Cabwe and Anabi nodded. Then the three headed off in the direction of the 10th Magic Knight Squad's base. In the common realm town of Tuliu, the citizens of said town bustled about, doing their own thing. Despite this, the citizens did pay attention occasionally to the posters about a 10th Magic Knight Squad, but they mostly ignored them, knowing that Clover doesn't have good relations with the Diamond Kingdom. 3 commoners, however, were walking through the town and were on their way home. One of them was a short woman with medium-length black hair, brown eyes, wearing a pink scarf around her neck and wore a turquoise shirt and blue jeans and turquoise shoes. The second was next to this woman, blonde hair and some facial hair, wearing a long light blue shirt with a brown vest over it and white scarf around his neck, and light blue jeans of his own and blue shoes. The third was a woman with short brown hair, blue eyes, wearing a tan shirt, along with a white jacket over it, tan jeans and brown shoes. The black-haired woman was carrying a bag of groceries but then a few more posters began to show up over the next couple weeks. The blonde-haired man took one of the posters off the wall and read it. Amber Phoenix, the 10th and newest Magic Knight Squad, looking for new recruits. He read aloud. Before the other two with him could say anything, he turned to the black-haired woman. Dazu honey, you should join. The black-haired woman, Dazu Tayaku, turned to her husband and rubbed her right arm nervously. Well, Dazu began, voice filled with nervousness. Don't be nervous, the brown-haired woman replied. If you'd like, I can go with you if you are sure about going. Dazu glanced at the brown-haired woman and nodded. That'd be most appreciated, bow. Dazu told her. Dazu's husband smiled lightly in approval at his wife's decision. But soon, Dazu's appreciative smile faltered. But, my magic. Dazu spoke softly. It's not good on its own. True, Dazu's husband mused. But that's alright. Either way, I believe in you, Dazu. You can do this. I fully support you regardless of what you decide. Dazu glanced at her husband and nodded. Then I will do it, Dazu replied. Best we leave now before it's nightfall, Bao suggested. Right, Dazu nodded. She hugged her husband and told him to tell mother that she and Bao would be gone for the rest of the afternoon and probably through the evening. And with that, Dazu and Bao left Tilu. In the common realm town village of Neen, the citizens of said town bustled about, doing their own thing. Despite this, the citizens did pay attention occasionally to the posters about a 10th Magic Knight Squad, but they mostly ignored them, knowing that Clover doesn't have good relations with the Diamond Kingdom. Amongst the village, a slim, well-endowed young woman, with blue eyes and long black hair. Her main attire is a modified nun's habit like a warrior nun with a headpiece and brown boots. And next to her was a young adult woman wearing nun's clothing, blue eyes, and also black hair. The older woman was carrying some Bibles that were to be brought to the church. The younger and shorter woman pouted at the older woman's teasing. Sister Lily, stop teasing me. The younger woman pouted. I may be wearing a nun outfit, but I'm not a nun cosplayer. Sister Lily just continued to laugh. I'm sure your great-aunt Sister Teresa finds it amusing, Fried. Sister Lily continued to giggle. Fried groaned at Sister Lily's words. Oi, Fried remarked. Well, at the very least, let's before Fried finishes. She stops and looks at the pillar in front of them. It has a poster on it. Sister Lily also stopped to examine it and pulled it off the pillar to read it. Amber Phoenix, the 10th and newest Magic Knight Squad, looking for new recruits. She read aloud before glancing at Fried. Well, look at that. A chance for you to join a squad since you couldn't go to the entrance exam this year. But would they allow me in? Fried asked. Sister Lily smiled. I'm sure they would. Sister Lily reassured her. After, Lady Asir has told me and Father Orsi that Captain Yami takes in people off the streets. I think the only reason this 10th Magic Knight Squad is doing this is because it was formed after the entrance exam. Sister Lily paused, then added, Why don't we see what Sister Teresa has to say? Fried nodded in agreement. My, this is quite the opportunity for you, my dear grandniece. The elderly nun spoke towards Fried. I'd suggest you take it. Fried smiles at the approval from her great-aunt, then turns to Sister Lily and frowns. Can Sister Lily come to Great-Aunt Teresa? Fried asked. Sister Teresa chuckled while Sister Lily shook her head and raised her hands up. Oh no, I can't, Sister Lily replied. I work for the church. Plus, I'm a pacifist. Fried rolled her eyes at that. Sure. Then why is it that I've heard you used your holy fist of love spell on Asta when he was younger? Probably because that wild child drove Sister Lily crazy at times. Sister Teresa laughed. She even gets confused for a noble due to how much magic she has. Hey, Sister Lily pouted. It's true, Sister Lily, Fried remarked. And I don't want you to have your potential as a strong mage be used for this. She turned to her great aunt. You agree, right? Of course. Sister Teresa nodded in agreement. Oi, Sister Lily groaned as the kids Sister Teresa were watching over entered the building. Fried turned to see them and smiled. Hey Marco Marie. Fried spoke towards the red and blonde-haired boy and girl. What say you? Should Sister Lily join the Amber Phoenix squad with me? Marco and Marie glanced at each other, then back at Fried and nodded vigorously. Yes, they both said. Fried grinned in satisfaction, while Sister Teresa chucked in amusing. There you have it, Lily. Sister Teresa told the younger nun. And I know you can't say no to children. Sister Lily sighed in defeat. You're right, Sister Lily retorted before turning to Fried. All right, let's go. Yup, Fried smiled. I'll be leading us to the address, and with that, the two left, with the children, and Sister Teresa waving goodbye to them. In a building that was now fixed up from its vacancy at the border of noble and common realms. Fana, now Captain Fana of the Amber Phoenix Squad, now wearing her Amber Phoenix Squad robe, paced back and forth in the main room, with Mars, Valeria, Alice, Julius, Marx, Fanzel, Dominant, and Mariella watching her. Mars, Valeria, Alice, Fanzel, Dominant, and Mariella were also wearing the Amber Phoenix Squad robe over their clothing. Normally I'd describe Fanzel, Dominant, and Mariella, but considering how many characters I have to describe throughout this fic, I will not do it for these three specifically. Nervous, Fanzel asked his former student, now captain of the 10th Magic Knight Squad of the Clover Kingdom, Amber Phoenix. Fana eventually stopped pacing and turned to face Fanzel and the others. Yes, I am nervous, Fana admitted. What if no one wants to join? Then what? It'll be fine, Fana, Dominant reassured her. I place posters all over, Julius told her. There's bound to be some people that have seen them and are interested. Well, that's good, Mars replied. But still, Fana spoke in a panicked tone. Me and Mars know how the nobles and royals treat outsiders, especially outsiders that are from an opposing country like Diamond. She does have a point, sir, Marx frowned. While Captain Asier and us are accepting, House Kira will not be once they find out. Julius, however, brushed the comment aside. While that is a concern, damnatio can be reasoned with, Julius remarked reassuringly. This is the place? Fana, Mars, Valeria, Alice, Fanzel, Dominant, Mariella, Marx, and Julius turned to see two women at the front door's threshold, since it was open. One of the women had short brown hair, while the other one had medium-length black hair. Julius smiled at them. Hello and welcome to the Amber Phoenix Squad's HQ. Julius greeted the two. The Wizard King? The two thought. I am Daza Tayaku, Daza replied, and I'm Bao no Kud. Bao greeted. Fana and Mars soon approached the threshold of the door and stood to the side, as if telling the two women that they could come in. Dazu and Bao looked around the building. Yeah, me and Marx were just helping fix the place up to look more like a Magic Knight Squad base, Julius chuckled. So we apologize for the somewhat not so neat place. No, it's okay, Bao retorted. We can help fix it up as well. Fana and Mars glanced at each other, then nodded. That'd be appreciated, Mars told her. Before Bao could reply, they could hear more people arriving. And while it made Julius more excited, it made Fana more nervous. Oh goody, more potential magic knights. Julius grinned as his eyes slowly began to become starry. I still can't believe you wanted to bring me along. Lily groaned at Fried. You needed to get out more, Fried replied. She turned to see several people looking at them. I take it that this is the Amber Phoenix base. Marx was about to respond, but Fana intervened. That's right, Fana nodded. Lily gasped, looking at the poster Fried had taken with her, then back at the pinkette. But you're from the Diamond Kingdom, yes, Fana answered. This news caused Dazu and Bao to mutter amongst themselves. Thus Fana began to feel uncomfortable. Shit. I shouldn't have said that, Fana thought frantically. She felt Mars hold her in a form of comfort. Diamond Kingdom? Kabwi spoke as he, Siona, and Anabi arrived as well. Magic Parliament guards? Marks thought. Are they here to stop the Amber Phoenix squad from being formed? Oh, Anabi, Siona, Cabwe. Julius greeted the three. What brings you here? We want to join, Cabwe replied. Since we don't have a job anymore as Magic Parliament guards. Yeah, Siona muttered. A look of sympathy crossed Julius. Marks, Fana, Mars, Fanzel, Dominant, Mariella, Alice, and Valeria's faces at that. Well, here you can have a second chance. Julius grinned, hoping to clear up the gloomy atmosphere a bit. That is why it's called Amber Phoenix after all. A phoenix symbolizes rebirth, freed, remarked as she and Sister Lily approached the base. Seems fitting in this case. She glanced over at the others and gaped upon seeing Julius. You're the Wizard King, Sister Lily finished, and by the looks of it, glances at Fana and Mars, the captain and vice captain respectively. Fana and Mars nodded in response. Marks counted the number of people present for the Amber Phoenix squad. 13, 14. 14 total, Marks remarked as he turned to Julius. That should be enough for a squad. Speaking of which, wait. Marks stopped and turned to face Mars. If these guys are truly serious about joining, then perhaps we should test their skills in a little sparring against my crystal clones. This caused Dazu, Bao, Cabwe, Siona, and Anabi glanced at one another before back at Mars. Well, Dazu began softly, but Julius talked over her. Wonderful idea, Mars. Julius grinned as his eyes became all starry. Yes, now I get to see so much magic in action. Julius thought happily. Marks glanced at Julius as Mars set up the crystal clones and sighed. Here we go again. Marks muttered ... at this point. Fana, Mars, Valeria, Alice, Fanzel, Dominate, Mariella, as well as the others that did arrive that wished to join, were now outside the base. Julius and Marks on the sidelines, along with Fana, Valeria, Mariella, Alice, Fanzel, and Dominant, while the rest including Mars, stood facing Mars. Now, who'd like to go first? Mars asked. The group of 7 glanced at each other, muttering amongst themselves, mostly saying that they didn't want to go first. Eventually, however, I'll go first. Mars turned to see Freed stepping forward. Since no one else wants to, Mars nodded approvingly. Very well, Mars remarked. Let's see how you fare. Think you can take down these crystal clones? Freed's grimoire came out of her pouch and it opened up to a specific page while floating in front of her. Black flames engulfed her right hand. You can use the clones to attack me if you want. Save attacking for later. Marks spoke. We don't want. Yes, please. Julius spoke over Marks. I must see their magic in full action. Marks groaned as he put his hand to his face. Why do I even bother? Marks groaned as a few crystal clones charged towards Freed. Freed raised her black flame-imbued right hand. Black flame magic. Black flame strong fist. Freed declared as did a front punch towards the crystal clones. Black flames flew off of her right fist and towards the crystal clones, thus burning them to charred crystal pieces. Julius clasped his hands together as his eyes sparkled. Ah, amazing. Julius beamed. Never seen or heard of black flame magic before. The other 6 looked at each other, then at Freed and Mars as Mars used his crystal magic to reform his crystal clones. Julius glanced at the other 6. Who wants to go next? Reluctantly, Dazu stepped forward as Freed stepped back. I'll go next, Dazu murmured. Bao whispered. Dazu glanced at Bao, then back at Mars. But, Dazu began as she narrowed her eyes slightly. I will only join if my mother-in-law and husband are allowed to live here. Of course. Julius grinned. Family members are more than welcome. He glanced at Fana and Mars who both nodded approvingly. Dazu glanced over at Fana and Mars and nodded shyly. Thank you. Dazu replied as she got her grimoire out and it flipped through its pages before stopping at a certain page. I'm ready. Mars nodded, then gestured to his crystal clones to attack Dazu, which they did. Catalyst magic. Chronoblast. Dazu thought as she launched several time orbs at the crystal clones. Thus they turned to dust. Mars and everyone else watching gasped. What did she just do? Fanzel gasped. It appeared that she had borrowed magic. Dominant breathed. From me, it would seem, Julius remarked. Oh, sorry about that, Dazu told Julius. But he brushed the apology aside. No need to apologize. He smiled. So your magic. It's catalyst, right? When Dazu nodded, Julius's eyes sparkled. So cool. Please show me more. She can't right now, sir. Marks snapped. We have other initiatives to go through. Oh, right. Sorry. Julius rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Valeria laughed at Julius's antics and couldn't help but smile. Never change Julius. She laughed lightly. Oh, don't worry, Valeria, he won't. Mark sighed. Eventually, the rest of the ones that wished to join went. 4. They used magic bullets instead, which despite magic bullets having lesser power than an actual spell were pretty effective. Anabi even got to show off how strong his barrier was against Mars's magic and his magical clones. After everyone had gone, it was nearly sunset. Julius, Marx, Fana, and Mars stood in front of those that came to join Amber Phoenix. You all that came that wanted to join passed with flying colors, Julius began to explain. And while the captain and vice captain of Amber Phoenix are from another country, Diamond, that doesn't mean that they haven't turned over a new leaf. Alice, Valeria, Fanzel, Dominant and Mariella here can testament for that. On top of that, they willingly put their lives at risk to defend Clover citizens from both attacks. If that doesn't show defection, I don't know what does. Thank you, sir. Fana smiled at Julius, albeit a bit shyly. This'll help with the payments I owe, Anabi remarked as he put on the Amber Phoenix squad robe, like Kabwi and Siona. Considering it's a lot of money to gain from this job and all, Siona and Kabwi nodded. Kabwi remarked, and I can finally help my nephew out too. While being a magic parliament guard was great, it didn't pay as much as they said in the interview. Probably because we're commoners that got lucky even to get such a job, Siona frowned. Well, you don't have to worry about discrimination or social status in my squad, Fana smiled. After all, the word Phoenix means rebirth. Therefore, we're all starting fresh, and are getting a second chance at life per se. Vanessa made extra robes for you guys, just in case new members to show up. And or your old robes get too damaged, Marx explained as he turned to Julius. I believe that's everything, sir. Julius glanced at Marx and nodded. Right. However, I do have one more thing to say. Julius spoke. Thus the Amber Phoenix squad members turned to him. Sir, Mars asked. What is it? Mariella questioned. Due to the Amber Phoenix squad being made after the Magic Knight's entrance exam, Captain Asir and I have agreed to have her send over some of her squad members over here to help you guys get settled into how this works in regards to missions. His smile didn't falter as he continued. As for these Silver Eagle members, that'll be like your guides for the first couple months. They are as follows. Asta, Noelle Silva, and Courtney Relakis. While Asta and Noelle are fairly new Silver Eagles members, Noelle knows enough about how this works based on her mother's and her elder siblings' experience out in the field. I think it'd be best if some members stayed here, Bao piped up. I can be this squad's medic, while Vide, Dazu's husband, can be the transportation. Dazu chuckled awkwardly, but nodded at Bao's words nonetheless. Yes, Dazu spoke. I hope that's fine. It is, Julius replied as he and Marx began to leave. Now get some rest, all of you. You need it. And with that, Marx and Julius left the Amber Phoenix squad base within the Diamond Kingdom's castle. An elderly man wearing royalty-like clothing sat upon a throne, observing 3 of the 8 shining generals, Evanora, Anna, and Ladros to be accurate. So those 3 fools got themselves captured. The Diamond King mused before he brushed the failure aside. It makes no difference. I am after something else entirely now. Immortality. I'll die soon otherwise. So what do you want us to do, your majesty? Anna questioned. The Diamond King snapped his fingers and a hologram of the world map appeared. He pointed at the spot in between Clover and Diamond. I want you 3 to enter the Witch's Forest and capture the Witch Queen, the Diamond King explained. She's been alive for who knows how long. And even then, she doesn't even look past 40. Whatever power she has, it's keeping her alive. Once she's captured, I will have it be stripped from her and given to me. Ha ha ha. Sure thing, your majesty. Ladros laughed. When do we leave, sir? Evanora asked. At her question, the Diamond King's lips formed a dark smile. Right now, he replied. End of chapter 11. Link down to the comments if you want to read the rest of the story. I hope you all enjoy. Goodbye.